So, okay, so here you see the blue
Hmm.
subagent. So I'd already created this task decomposition expert at my user level, and I coded it blue, and that's actually really useful. Especially this is kind of messy output to be able to see things, where it's at, who's doing what. And this might take a minute because the other thing that I did was I created a script that scans my entire machine for the subagent.markdown files and then inventoried those in a SQLite database. And it's using embeddings to like semantic search to figure out what are the best existing subagents that I have
That's
and how
really
to
cool.
combine them. So this is like a hack together. It's kind of like a hack that I created, but it will absolutely like this is what will happen whether it's at the application level or a feature update of some sort. It provides if you're a creative person and just understand how this works. This gives you so much.
That's really cool,
So
man. Just
here,
unpack that. I saw that and I was like, all right, well, so it's a firing up like a chroma kind of thing, like locally. And it's basically you're giving the task decomposition, you're giving Claude um, like a mini RAG kind of experience over the top of previously created agents so that the output will effectively be quote unquote better, more accurate, or faster, I assume. Are there online
oh,
services for something like that? That'd be a cool idea. Like create something like that. Maybe we should put it in the vault. That'd be sick. And
yeah, I
just
was
like,
thinking about it. That's why I have the project folder I'm working out. I was thinking about maybe creating something we can put out there. I'll
yeah.
show you the
Yeah, while that's
database real
going, yeah,
quick.
spin it up. I want to see it. That's rad. And then the output basically is like it defines how many of those subagents it wants to build within that AI research team that you created, right? So there's no constraint on the number. What did you say? And I only want 10, I only want 12, or is it just like you just Claude just decides?
I didn't put anything specific, but what I've seen some notes that say you do want to limit it to maybe like 5 or so. And I've also run into quite a few things where I probably created too many and then it runs for like half an hour and you look at it and you're like, I didn't need to do that. like, you know, um,
Yeah, and I
I don't
wonder
know if
about
you
like
can you
the
see
way that
this okay?
yeah, I can. So like this is like the SQL database. So this is pulling in all of the different agent files that you've created, right? And indexing them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's, I guess, 93. I didn't think I had that
93.
many, but so that's according to this, I have 93 specialized subagents on my machine. Over here on the right, you can see, there's like metadata. What tools does it have? It has the full definition of the subagents. The way that I set this up with the embeddings, it's using a semantic similarity and the task decomposition logic, and then figuring out what do we already have that we can use. We need to create new subagents, and yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that's really how it's supposed to work, but it's basically very quickly allowed me to apply some of the ideas that I've actually like. This is not a new idea that I came up with this week, right? This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
something I've actually done quite a bit with, just using different methods. But this allows you to basically do that like instant.
Yeah, and we spoke about this last week, right? And that's a great example of like the acceleration effect you get using some of these simple tools that I think kind of we forget about. That's a great example. So thanks for showing it. Just back on that question around like the kinds of agents and the number. It's interesting. I'd be interested to see and dig into like what people are seeing. In the documentation, they basically, it seems like they're defining them as when there is a sequence of work or when there's a specialization. But we can't anthropomorphize these things, right? It's basically just when you need the context to be narrow band for a better outcome. Kind of like that medical agent thing we talked through, that example where there's a specific directive request into one subagent within the kind of in that example that was a couple of episodes ago. It was types of input on a medical diagnosis where they specifically defined subagents to be critical, to be focused on cost, to be focused on patient experience, whatever it is. So it's like it'd be interesting to see how this emerges around how to think about the agent, the subagent definition scope, how narrow, how broad, and the efficacy of those things and how it applies to, obviously this is coding mostly, right? So you could pretty much think like, obviously a QA engineer is very different to like a web dev, to like a full stack or like whatever, like, you know, SQL, like data analyst, all of those things, like they're well defined. But then how do you define it in terms of like outcomes as well? Like I'm looking for this specific outcome. For example, it's like a code analyzer is an outcome on performance issues in the documentation example. Just focus on that, then pass it to the sub agent, which is an optimizer. And they're not roles or people outcomes defined. So yeah, I think,
Yeah,
I don't know
and
if you got any
I think
comments
in
on that.
terms of like workflows, inputs, outputs, compose workflows, and yeah. So now I'm sitting here like, well, shit. Now I actually have to sit down and map like every single type of task that I do, like
Well, let's
because
talk through this example. This is interesting
and
because
that's the
this raises
thing is
questions. Yeah,
the meta
this raises
prompting,
you.
the meta prompting and stuff is cool, but you also really, to be most effective, you still have to apply a lot of like thought and to some levels design. If you're going to create a complex system of tons of subagents, you need to really spend time. The fine details of those prompts will be more important the more you scale your system. Tom, what were you saying?
Well, I want. Can you just talk us through? So we had this task decomposition kind of meta generation of sub agents within Claude, and the request was academic trends. Basically, created a team of expert researcher sub agents focused on the latest academic trends and coding projects in AI. Right? It spent 27,000 tokens and 2.5 minutes doing that. What are the agents that came out? Because that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we have a academic papers specialist, a code implementation expert, a trends analyst, and a technical integration specialist. So in that process of defining like what type of subagents, it also defined the tools that it has access to, a lot of those customizations we talked about earlier. So let's, just to demonstrate this, let's kick off. I was going to feed it the hierarchical reasoning model paper, but I think we want to have it do more broad research.